Strange encounters at the desert mine. What should exist? In the vast, sun-scorched American Southwest, there are some holes in the ground that should have stayed buried. Places where the earth holds more than just ore, and where greed and tragedy have literally seeped into the rock. These are the stories of things that shouldn't exist, found deep inside the abandoned mines that scar the desert. They tell of ghostly guardians, impossible treasures, and the terrifying number of people who have walked into these mountains and simply vanished forever. Introduction: The Land and the Legends. The American Southwest is a land of brutal beauty. For centuries, its mountains have whispered promises of riches, pulling prospectors and dreamers into their unforgiving territory. But for every story of a massive fortune, there's another, much darker tale. A legend of a place so cursed and so jealously guarded that it seems to swallow anyone who gets too close. Nowhere is this more true than in the Superstition Mountains of Arizona. For the early Apache and Pima peoples, these peaks were sacred ground, a place they deeply feared. They believed the mountains held a gateway to the underworld, protected by a powerful thunder god who would strike down any intruders. When settlers heard these stories, they dismissed them as local folklore and named the range the Superstition Mountains. It's a name that has turned out to be tragically fitting. And at the heart of all these legends is the most famous lost mine in American history, the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine. Its story tangled with betrayal, ghosts, disappearances, and a whole lot of death. Number 1. The Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine. The legend has been told and twisted in dozens of ways, but it always comes back to a German immigrant named Jacob Waltz. The story goes that in the 19th century, Waltz found a mine overflowing with gold, and then took its location to his grave in 1891. He was supposedly led to it by a descendant of the Peralta family, who had worked the mine for years until Apaches, desperate to protect their sacred land, ambushed and slaughtered them in 1848. The Apaches were said to have buried the gold and hidden the mine's entrance, hoping to keep it safe forever. Waltz, they say, was one of the only people to ever find it again. On his deathbed, he left a few cryptic clues, maybe a crude map, but nothing that has ever led to the actual mine. What he really left behind was an obsession that has gripped treasure hunters for over a century. Since 1892, it's estimated that thousands of people every year have tried to find the Dutchman's mine. Many of them never came back. The list of people lost to the superstitions is long and deeply disturbing. The most famous case is Adolf Ruth, a hobbyist explorer who went searching in the summer of 1931 and disappeared. 6 months later, his skull was found with 2 bullet holes in it, a discovery that made national headlines and sealed the mine's deadly reputation. The mountain just kept claiming victims. In 1947, James A. Cravey was dropped off by a helicopter to search the area. His headless skeleton was found months later. In 1952, a man named Joseph Kelly vanished. His skeleton was discovered 2 years later near Weaver's Needle, a key landmark in the legend, with a bullet hole in his skull. That one was officially ruled an accidental shooting. More recently, in late 2009, a 35-year-old man named Jesse Capon, who was obsessed with the mine, walked into the Tonto National Forest and never walked out. His body was finally found 3 years later, wedged in a crevice. The very next year, 3 hikers from Utah also went missing while searching for the mine. Authorities believe they died from the brutal summer heat. The deaths are so frequent, with causes ranging from mysterious falls and gunshots to just getting lost, that many people think it's more than just a harsh environment play. Some say it's a curse. Others claim it's the ghost of Jacob Waltz himself, a shadowy figure seen watching from the ridges, still guarding his treasure. Number 2. The Haunting of Vulture Mine. But the darkness isn't just trapped in the Superstition Mountains. 100 miles away, near Wickenburg, Arizona, you'll find Vulture Mine. Between 1863 and 1942, this was one of the most productive gold mines in the state, pulling out what would be worth nearly $400 million today. Of course, with that much money came a lot of trouble, murder, cave-ins, and constant theft. The most infamous spot in the ghost town that grew up around it, Vulture City, is the Hanging Tree, where legend says 18 men were executed for crimes like stealing ore. Today, Vulture City is a paranormal hotspot, so active that it's drawn investigators from shows like Ghost Adventures. Visitors and staff report a constant barrage of unsettling experiences. Disembodied voices whisper right in your ear. Rocks are thrown at people who get too close to the hanging tree. The phantom sound of pickaxes hitting rock still echoes out of the empty mine shafts. Inside the old assay building, which many call the paranormal heart of the town, investigators have even captured photos of huge, shadowy figures. Maybe the most tragic spirit there is Jimmy Davis, a miner who died horribly when his arm got caught in the machinery. They say his blood-curdling screams for help can still be heard echoing through the mine shafts at night. The spirits here feel restless, like they're still tied to the ground they worked and died on, a permanent part of the mine's haunted legacy. The investigation, connecting the dots. So what is it about these desolate holes in the ground that makes them magnets for the unexplained? Even though these mines are miles apart, the stories share some really unsettling themes. There's almost always a legend about cursed treasure, gold that brings nothing but ruin. And there are always tales of spectral guardians, whether it's the ghost of a murdered prospector or the ancient spirits the Apaches warned about. Those indigenous legends are hard to ignore. The Apache didn't just see the mountains as their home. They saw them as sacred, a place ruled by deities, a place that held a doorway to another world. Their stories claim that the warrior Geronimo could literally step into a rock wall and vanish, only to show up days later hundreds of miles away in New Mexico, hinting at a hidden network of tunnels. They spoke of the thunder god who protected the gold. These weren't just campfire stories. They were warnings. Warnings that were completely ignored by prospectors blinded by greed. Of course, skeptics will point to more down-to-earth explanations. The desert itself is a killer. The dizzying heat, the lack of water, and the treacherous terrain can easily make someone disoriented. It can cause accidents and death. The total isolation can play tricks on your mind, making the wind sound like a whisper or the shadow of a cactus look like a man. And let's be honest, where there's a fortune at stake, human greed is often the most dangerous monster. One writer who searched for the lost Dutchman's mine claimed he was nearly killed by a sniper, and he believed the same person murdered Adolf Ruth. It's impossible to know how many of the missing were just silenced by a rival. The climax, the unsettling truth. But does a rational explanation really cover it all? It doesn't quite account for the sheer number of stories, the consistency of the paranormal encounters, or how chillingly the native legends line up with the disappearances. The most unsettling truth might not be that these mines are haunted by a specific ghost, but that the land itself feels hostile, protected by a force that's much older than any modern curse. The Apache described the mountains as a hellhole that could send out ferocious winds and dust storms. This wasn't just folklore, it was an acknowledgement of a powerful, dangerous energy. That belief is so strong that it has created a very real, deadly cycle. People have died searching for a treasure that might not even be real. They've been found shot, decapitated, or have just vanished without a trace, all because they were chasing a legend. The most chilling possibility here is that the curse isn't on the gold, it's on the greed of the people who look for it. The idea that there are places on this planet that will actively defend themselves from us is terrifying. It suggests that the things that shouldn't exist aren't the ghosts or the spirits, but our own audacity in thinking we can just plunder the earth without any consequences. The thunder god, the guardian spirits, the ghost of Waltz. Maybe they're all just different names for the same ancient warning. Some secrets are supposed to stay buried. Conclusion. The lingering mystery. The sun still beats down on the Superstition Mountains. The shafts of Vulture Mine are still dark and quiet, and the legends just won't die. Whether these strange encounters are caused by spirits, curses, or just the psychological toll of the desert, they leave us with a deep sense of mystery. The mines of the American Southwest hold stories that don't have easy answers, tales of things that just shouldn't exist in our modern rational world. What do you think is really going on in these desert mines? Is it a paranormal force, a human conspiracy to protect a secret, or something else entirely? Let us know your theories down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip into the unexplained, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more strange journeys, and ring the notification bell so you never miss what we find next.